Today's Cowboys Report is presented by Manscaped. You can get 20% off and free shipping on all of their top-of-the-line men's grooming products when you use promo code Cowboys at manscaped.com. We'll tell you about the Lawnmower 4.0, etc. later on in today's show. But that promo code and, of course, the euro to get you to Manscaped, promo code Cowboys, gets you the 20% off and the free shipping. Here's what's on tap on today's Rumors Roundup. Some Dalton Schultz contract updates per ESPN. Josh Ball potentially being on the roster bubble. Osa Odighizuwa's breakout season, fingers crossed on that one. And could the Cowboys sign this notable free agent wide receiver? Find out who towards the end of today's video. But we begin with Dalton Schultz, as Todd Archer says it looks like Schultz will play on the franchise tag this year, which, as I'm sure because everybody who's watching is subscribed, right, and watches all the videos, you know this has been the expectation and the trend almost since Schultz got the franchise tag. That would be about $10.9 million for 1 year only, with no flexibility in terms of how the Cowboys would be able to pay Schultz. He's coming off a career year, 8 touchdowns, 808 yards. From a pure statistical standpoint, he produced like a top 6 tight end, which means he wants to get paid like one of those caliber of tight ends. And the baseline for a potential deal has been set. It is the deal that David Njoku got from the Cleveland Browns. Because although Njoku is a better athlete and a higher draft pick, Schultz has been far more productive for the Cowboys, which means the 4-year, $54.75 million deal with $28 million guaranteed, plus or minus a couple million on the guaranteed, probably on the plus side, and maybe some adjustments on the APY average per year. That's the minimum of what Schultz is going to expect from the Cowboys, because why would you take less? That's the market, and somebody will pay it to you if you hit free agency next year. And, of course, from the Cowboys' perspective, man, is Schultz worth being a top 5 highest-paid tight ends? You run the risk of paying a good player, which unquestionably Schultz is, great money. And that is, I think, a concern for Dallas. But there's also this. There's nobody behind him. I have hope for young guys like Jake Ferguson and Sean McEwen. But if we're banking on a 4th-round pick, a former undrafted free agent with no real impact in the NFL so far, and a journeyman in Jeremy Sprinkle, elite name, that's typically not going to go that great. So Schultz is by far the Cowboys' best option right now. I am unconvinced they will pay him big money, even though they absolutely could if they want. We'll go more in depth on my thoughts on this, but what do you think ends up happening? Will the Cowboys extend Schultz by the rapidly approaching July 15th franchise tag deadline? Type in Y for yes, they will, or type in N for no, they will not. This is the pinned comment on today's video, so if the ad break comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know what you think. In the end, I don't think this deal gets done. I don't think the Cowboys are willing to meet Schultz's very high and likely only going up market. And this is not anti-Schultz, by the way. He's a good football player. He is a much better blocker than some people out there, including some watchers, want to give him credit for. He's not an elite blocker. He's not great in space, but he's not a disaster either. But he's also not a premier player after the catch. He is a good player. I'm not sure he is a great player. And I think for the potential game-breaking ability you could find with that $15 million, $13 million, $14 million price tag, I think what makes most sense is tag him for a year, look for a tight end next year, and allow Schultz to leave and say, hey, thanks for your service. And then he becomes, in the process, a Cowboys legend, by the way. And if you want to be a legend in the bedroom, make sure you're using Manscaped's products. 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com when you use promo code Cowboys. Use the Lawnmower 4.0. Am I saying for a certain fact that if I wasn't using Manscaped, I would not have a 7-month-old daughter? I can't prove that correlation and causation, but I feel confident there is a connection there. So if you want to have some more success, at least have more success than Jeremy Chuggs as our producer, use Manscaped. 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com, because when things are trimmed up nicely, it looks a little bit better. So for Jeremy, for example, he'll go from a 3 to a 4. Maybe you go a little bit better. Promo code Manscaped, or promo code Cowboys at manscaped.com. Let's talk Josh Ball now. Interesting, I'll call it a report, I guess, from Bobby Belt of 105 Through the Fan. Belt thinks that Ball, by the way, friend of the show, is already on the roster. Well, I had to clarify who was the friend of the show, because my thoughts on Josh Ball are quite clear at this point, I think. But focusing on the player himself, Belt thinks that the Cowboys already put Ball on the roster. Well, apparently, the weight room habits, the practice performances have not been good, and Matt Maletzko is already ahead of him on the depth chart. That would make Ball at best offensive tackle 4 for the Cowboys. And these are not things you want to hear of the team's 4th-round pick. Bad weight room habits, the practices aren't very good, and I put him on our minicamp winners and losers, the loser side, because every time there was a tweet of, big play by defensive lineman, it was often followed up with some variation of Josh Ball got beat bad. And that's not good, especially when media are not going to go out of their way to body players in minicamp and whatnot. So I think there is a chance, if this ends up continuing, knowing there is an entire, practice squad, etc. here, or practice squad, preseason, training camp, whatever, that maybe Ball does end up getting cut. And the most interesting part of Belt's report on 105.3 was that Avion Collins was outplaying Josh Ball. And Collins, the local product from TCU, spent some time on Minnesota, on Minnesota's active roster very briefly. If he's outplaying Ball, that's a huge red flag for me. Now, in general, the Cowboys are not one to quickly give up on a player. They, especially a draft pick, they give those guys as much time as humanly possible. But if Ball's already on the bubble, that's a big red flag if true. So what do you think ends up happening? Will Josh Ball make the Cowboys roster? Type M for he makes it, or type C for he gets cut. Make your predictions, your way too early ones, for me right now in the comment section. From Osa Odighizuwa, potential breakout. That's next up here. Hopefully ends up being the case. The Athletic labeled Osa as one of the interior defensive line breakout candidates for the entire NFL. And Osa did flash plenty as a rookie. He did cool off a bit as the year went on. I would argue hit that rookie wall, so to speak. So a second-year jump could and hopefully does end up happening for Osa. In fact, this is someone we've talked about in the past as a prime breakout candidate. We did 2 different breakout videos. One on the defensive side of the ball, featuring my over-the-top Jabril Cox jokes, and offensive focused only. Of course, Osa made the defensive side on that front. So if you haven't watched those videos, make sure you're subscribed. Make sure those notifications are turned on. That way you don't miss out on any of the videos here at the Cowboys Report. Now, Nate Tice, next up here, on why he ranked Osa as a potential breakout player. Though he had only 2 sacks last year, Osa's pressure rate on his pass rushing snaps, 9.1%, was just behind players such as Cam Jordan, Draymond Jones, and just above Jeffrey Simmons' 8.6%. Though Osa doesn't have ideal size, he is also disruptive on rundowns. He logged 4 non-sack tackle for loss last year, which tied for 28th among defensive linemen. And I believe that Tice is using the playoff stats here as well, or the pressure rates were just a little bit off. We have it 9.25, but we're talking fractions. There's really no difference from that standpoint there. 6 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. The flashes were there. That's a really good pressure rate, by the way. Awesome pressure rate on an interior defensive lineman. So hopefully the pressure rates then convert to sacks this upcoming year. And the Cowboys desperately need somebody to emerge on the interior, on the defensive line. Whether it's Neville Gallimore, a Tristan Hill, a Fatty and Quinton Bohanna, or John Ridgeway, having a dynamic presence on the interior, the defensive line, something this team hasn't had consistently outside of, David Irving when he gave a singular care about playing football. Haven't had in a while up front. So getting that breakout from Osa, I think, is one of the more ideal outcomes for this Cowboys team. So who do you think is most likely to break out in 2022 among all the Dallas Cowboys players? Who do you think it is? Is it Jabril Cox, Osa, somebody else altogether? Drop that name for me in the comment section. Could the Cowboys sign Adam Humphries? That's the free agent we're talking about here on today's show. Blogging the boys in a potential receiver target, which, okay, I'm of the mindset that adding another receiver would be beneficial to this team. He does fit a couple of potential holes, slot only, with some previous punt return value, and we know, despite all of the cap space they have available, that the Cowboys don't want to spend money. Humphries would be very cheap at this point in his NFL career. Before we break down more on Humphries and his potential fit in with the Cowboys, name a free agent who you want to sign. Now, that's free agent, so don't put trade names in there. Only players who are unsigned at this point. The last 4 years of Humphries' career have been honestly not great. He had a good 2018 campaign. 816 yards, 5 touchdowns, was an awesome slot receiver. The last 3 years, though, it has not been very good. 37 catches, under 400 yards. 23 catches, under 250. 41 catches, under 400. And the average has dipped every single year. He is a slot-only player. And a lot of this comes down to what role do you want both CeeDee Lamb and Jalen Tolbert to end up playing. Tolbert, I think, will play some slot a lot for this team. I think Lamb will get some reps there as well. I actually don't know if slot receiver is the route I really want to go anymore for the Cowboys. I would wonder if maybe some speed is the best path for Dallas. Now, over their careers in terms of punt return, his career, I should say, Humphries does offer value here as well, which I am worried if Jalen Tolbert is truly going to be good enough to handle punt return duties. But again, there's a trend, right? Even on not quite a full-fledged sample size, it's going in the wrong direction from Adam Humphries, dipping every single year. So if he's cheap, sure, why not? Does he make me feel confident in the wide receiver room? Honestly, no.